Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for March 6th, 2022 at the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. I guess the main news from today was just the crazy weather. Here's a view of things when I arrived at 7:15. We had some rain go through starting around 6 a.m. and that was just finishing up when I got out there. And you can see it was cloudy at that time and already fairly warm with the temperature going up. I was a bit shocked to see some ice fishermen still out, with the forecast projecting temperatures to go into the mid-60s, and actually the temperature ended up getting into the low 70s. As soon as I started birding, I could tell spring was in the air. I hadn't seen a sparrow all season, and suddenly there were song sparrows near the platform and singing. I had hundreds of robins migrating. I had a couple hundred red-winged blackbirds, about 100 common grackles. Ended the day with about 25 killdeer. Horned larks were migrating, and this photo here shows a large flock of wood ducks, which I had seen a couple wood ducks in previous days, but had about 75 wood ducks total between a couple big flocks. And here's a male wood duck as it passed directly overhead. By 9 a.m., the clouds had cleared completely out, and we were left with blue skies of death. You can see that there was hardly any snow on the ground at the beginning of the day, and by the end, I think most of it had melted. Here's a killdeer passing over, and these migrate in small groups, usually between 1 and 3 individuals, occasionally a larger group. And the 25 that we had today is a really high number for this early in the season. We had small groups of turkey vultures migrating throughout the day for a total of 37. I noticed that some other hawk watches to our southwest, such as Hamburg in New York and Presque Isle in Pennsylvania, had much larger numbers of turkey vultures today, but those vultures did not reach us. Here's a snow bunting, which is always a nice treat to have over the hawk watch. And this would have been a great photo of a snow bunting, except I only got half of the bird in the photo, but it gives us a chance to really see that bright white section on the wing. And this really stands out when they're flying overhead. And also a nice look at the undertail pattern. Here we have an adult Cooper's hawk. So we know it's an accipiter because it has a long tail. And we know it's a Cooper's hawk because it has a big head. And the outer tail feathers are shorter than the inner tail feathers, although that's kind of tough to see from this photo. We also know that it is an adult because it has this horizontal barring on the breast. And when I say horizontal, that's in regards to if the bird was perched upright, it would be horizontal. The juveniles have vertical streaking that's kind of brown and teardrop shaped. Here we have an American black duck, and sometimes at a distance you might confuse these with mallards because they're a similar shape, but the main thing that stands out with black ducks is just how the dark body contrasts with the white on the underwing. Most of the groups of small birds migrating over turn out to be horned larks, so this American pipit was a nice surprise, and we can see some of the classic field marks of pipits, such as the markings on the upper breast, and they have an eye ring. You can't really see it from this angle, but from a side view you can see that better, and also the white outer tail feathers. They also have different flight calls. The horned larks have more of a high-pitched, really sweet call, that occasionally is 2 notes, but often is just a single note. On the pipits, their call is a bit rougher and it's 2 notes, which is where the name Pipit comes from. Here we have a nice drake, ring-necked duck, and these look somewhat similar to greater scaup and lesser scaup, but the one difference is you can look at the wings here to see how much white there is. So on lesser scaup, this area of the secondaries would be white, and on a greater scaup, that white would extend not just on the secondaries, but also onto some of the inner primaries. On the ringneck duck, like we see here, it's not white, it's just a steady gray color. And also the ringneck ducks have this distinctive bill pattern where it has kind of a white outline to it. But don't confuse that for the white on the face of the female scaup. Peregrine falcons are always nice to see. This one migrated through very low and went behind the pavilions before getting hit by a gust of wind and popping about 100 feet in the air. And we know that this is a Peregrine Falcon a few ways. First of all, it's a falcon, so it has pointed wings. The facial pattern is pretty distinctive. And just from the size, it's much larger than the other falcons that we get. We know it's an adult because the markings on the breast are a horizontal barring, whereas on the juvenile Peregrine Falcons, it's a vertical streaking. Here we have an adult red-tailed hawk, and I would say this one's a bit more towards the paler side. For red-tailed hawks, again, we're always looking for these dark patagial markings in the shoulder area, patagial bars, and the belly band. So a clean upper breast, clean down here, but markings in the middle with that belly band. And we know it's an adult because it has a dark trailing edge to the wings, and it has the red tail. But again, the red is much more bold on the top side. From underneath, it looks a bit more orange or pinkish or just very pale. Here we have a bald eagle that's almost a full adult. You can still see a little bit of black in the tail feathers and some white specking underneath. The one thing that caught my eye about this photo is if you look at these feathers, they have this interesting pattern, and I don't think I've ever seen this before. So I wonder if this had something to do with strong winds today, or if it's something different. If you know what that is, or if you've seen that before, let me know in the comments. We had a couple small groups of snow geese today, but nowhere near the number we had yesterday. And if you look at this photo, you'll notice that one of the geese is slightly different. And it has to do with where the black is. So on most of these geese, we see they just have black wingtips. But actually, the second goose from the top, we see it has black wingtips, but actually the whole trailing edge of the wing is also black. And that's because this one is a juvenile. Here we have a killdeer that landed in the grass, kind of peeking out at us from behind a hill. Here is a horned lark that landed on the grass, and we can see a little bit of the horn where they get the name horned lark. Well, the other day we had a white goose, and today we had a white duck. This appears to be a mallard. Here's a regular mallard in front of it, so it appears to be the same species, but definitely some kind of pigment issue going on there. We can see it looks like the feet and even the bill might be orangish, and then just lacking all of the normal colors you would have on a mallard. We had our first 4 American kestrels of the season today, and this one was cruising really low to the ground behind the platform. And this is a male, and we can tell that by the color. So male American kestrels have an orange back and also orange central tail feathers. The outer tail feathers actually are kind of a black and white pattern. And the wings on males are this combination of blue with a little bit of black, whereas female kestrels on the top side are much more just an overall brown color. Here's another adult red-tailed hawk. Same field marks as last time. We know it's a red tail because it has these dark patagial bars and a belly band. We know it's an adult because it has a dark trailing edge to the wing and a red tail. We had our first red-shouldered hawk of the season with this adult, and it's not a great photo because it was pretty far away, but one thing we can see is this very squared-off wingtip, which is typical of red-shouldered hawks. Their wingtip is very blunt-looking, kind of squared off, and we can't really see it in the photo, but of course the other thing we like to look for on red shoulders are the pale crescents, where their wing in this area is translucent. And of course, with adults, they're very orange. It's a very bold pattern, very orange underneath, and then a tail that basically looks black with white lines. Think of white lines on a chalkboard. And then we had these 2 swans on the ice with some Canada geese, and they were separated from all of the other swans, and we were wondering if they might be trumpeter swans. But honestly, with the distance and how much my scope was shaking, I was a little hesitant to make the definitive call for them being trumpeter swans, but they very well could have been. They definitely weren't mute swans, so either tundra swans or trumpeter, and we were leaning towards trumpeter. So the one thing I guess I haven't made a big enough point out of is how windy it was today. It was probably the windiest day of hawk watching I've ever had. We were sheltered beside the platform, and even with that, we were just getting battered around. Just super strong wind gusts. And when I got back to my car before leaving, I put the weather meter up out of my sunroof and was able to record a wind gust of 63.4 kilometers per hour. But there were probably even stronger gusts throughout the day. So very uncomfortable for hawk watching, very difficult to use a spotting scope. And the wind just got so strong in the afternoon, I think that prevented more raptors from migrating. If we take a look at the eBird checklist, we see a total of 48 species for the day. And actually, there were a few more species that other people saw that I never got on myself, so I did not include them on my own checklist. And one of those species was Sandhill Crane, which has kind of a funny story to it. One of the other observers and I started to speak at the same time, and she said, "Oh, go ahead." And I told her, "Part of your spotting scope cover is blowing away across the field." And as she started to run after it, she pointed and said, "Sandhill Crane." And I was looking and looking. Apparently there were 5 Sandhill Cranes, but I couldn't find them in the sky, and I couldn't ask her where exactly they were because she was running across the field trying to capture this piece of her scope cover before it blew into the bay. If we jump over to HawkCount, we can see that our migrant raptor totals for the day were 37 turkey vultures, 10 bald eagles, 4 northern harriers, 1 sharp-shinned hawk, 1 Cooper's hawk, 1 red-shouldered hawk, 13 red-tailed hawks, 3 rough-legged hawks, 4 American kestrels, and 1 peregrine falcon for a total of 75, which is the highest total so far this season. If we look at the non-raptor highlights, we see things like 13,000 Canada geese, 165 tundra swans, 50 horned larks, 350 American robins, American pipit, 15 snow buntings, and so on. We had quite a few new species for the season, such as song sparrow, American tree sparrow, American pipit, cedar waxwing, American kestrel, red-shouldered hawk, and sharp-shinned hawk. Let me briefly jump to a few other hawk watches. If we take a look at Presque Isle, which is in Erie, Pennsylvania, we see 780 turkey vultures. So that's what I was talking about, that southwest of us there's some large numbers of turkey vultures beginning to move, but they did not reach us today. If we look at Tussey Mountain Hawk Watch near State College, Pennsylvania, we see they had 16 golden eagles today, and they say that 15 of those were in a 2.5-hour window. And just for fun, let's look at Cacoldi in Costa Rica, and today they had about 6,000 turkey vultures and 1,300 swallow-tailed kites. And if we look at our forecast for the upcoming days, we see that tomorrow, which is Monday, March 7th, will be rain pretty much the whole day with some snow mixing in the afternoon, easterly winds shifting north-northwest. So the count might not be held if it's going to rain all day, and in any case, there won't be much happening. Tuesday, cloudy early, then partly cloudy, high just above freezing, winds west-northwest at 15 to 30. So not the best conditions, not the worst. Could be an okay day. Wouldn't expect a ton of birds to be migrating, but should be an okay day to be out. Wednesday's looking good with intervals of clouds and sun, high of 8 Celsius, and west-southwest winds. So that's probably going to be the best day this week, I would think. Okay, I hope everyone survived this warm and windy day, and we had a little taste of spring, and now we'll go back to winter, but I hope to see many of you out at the Hawk platform soon. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. This is David Brown. Thanks for watching.